Part 63. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 621. Zibao ran back with a bang, took out 2 more milk candies from his bag, ran over and handed them to the other girls. After passing them out, he ran back again. He ran back and forth several times, and each girl had one toffee. The little guy smiled sweetly and pointed at the candy in their hands. "Candy, eat it." The girls were all pleasantly surprised. "Zibao, can you give us something to eat? This is milk candy. It's very expensive. My father bought it for me when he went home to visit relatives. Is it delicious? I haven't eaten it. If there is candy at home, it belongs to my brother and younger brother, not mine. Yum. So delicious." Ding Lanlan pinched the toffee in her hand and looked at Feng Qingxiu. "Auntie." She didn't dare to eat what Zibao gave her because Feng Qingxiu, as an adult, didn't say anything and Zibao took out all the food himself. Feng Qingxiu said softly, "My brother gave it to you. Eat it quickly. If you don't eat it, my brother will cry." She was also surprised. "Okay." Except for himself, this was the first time that Zibao took out his food and shared it with others. Xiao Shita played with him for several days, but he didn't even think of giving Xiao Shita candy. After hearing Feng Qingxiu's words, the girls cheered and put toffee in their mouths one after another, reluctant to swallow for a long time. Seeing this scene, Huang Xiaozi laughed loudly, and Lu Zayadai's face was a little gloomy. "Jin Zayadai, why do you, a girl, eat sweets? Your teeth will rot until your roots are broken." Lu Zayadai scolded one of the 5 or 6-year-old girls. "Spit out the candy and give it to me, and save it for your brother." The little girl was so frightened that she swallowed the candy with a loud thud, and suddenly cried out of fear. "I swallowed it, I haven't tasted it yet." It's okay," Feng Qingxiu quickly comforted her, took out another toffee, peeled off the wrapper and stuffed the candy into her mouth. "Auntie gave it to you, eat it slowly, don't be afraid." "Ah." Jin Zayadai shrank timidly behind her, not daring to look at the angry Lu Zayadai. Mother and daughter have the same name. Feng Qingxiu frowned slightly. Huang Xiaozi also pulled Lu Zayadai. "Look, why are you scaring the child? The candy Zibao gave her went into her mouth. Why did you ask her to take it out?" Moreover, as far as she knew, Jin Hong and Lu Zayadai had no son, otherwise she wouldn't be so envious of Feng Qingxiu. She doesn't have a son, but she still wants her daughter to take out the candy in her mouth and give it to her brother. What's the idea? Lu Zayadai said angrily. "What kind of candy can a loser eat? Candy is such a precious thing, how can it be eaten by a little girl? What a waste." Feeling Jin Zayadai's fear, Feng Qingxiu felt angry. "Sister-in-law Jin, are you a lesbian?" she asked. Lu Zayadai replied inexplicably, "Of course I am, why do you ask? Can't you see that I am a woman?" Feng Qingxiu nodded slightly. "You must be a loser too." After Lu Zayadai heard this, her face immediately became displeased. "Why are you talking? You say I am a loser. Didn't you say this?" "Sister-in-law of the Jin family," Feng Qingxiu's voice was neither soft nor serious, "I just said it according to your wishes. I have lived and fed in my parents' house since I was born. When I can work, I will. My husband is just a loser. You must think so of yourself, otherwise why would you keep scolding your daughter one after another?" Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 622. Lu Zayadai stared with a pair of dim eyes, her lips trembled several times without uttering a word. Feng Qingxiu touched the top of Jin Zayadai's head, feeling a little pity for this girl with sparse and brown hair, who was extremely thin. Sister-in-law of the Jin family, the leaders have said that women can hold up half the sky. Now is an era where everyone is equal. Liberation. The vast majority of women and lesbians still work under the yoke of feudalism. There is no such thing as losing money. Your mind is full of old feudal ideas. How do you think Director Jin's family actually favors boys over girls? How to lead by example in the military? Yes, Zayadai, my daughter is a caring little cotton-padded jacket. You can't lose money one by one. We are all women. At our age, we all suffer from patriarchal preference. How come we arrived in the new China after liberation? Are you going to let your child suffer the injustice we have suffered again? Huang Xiaozi said with seriousness, which child was not born in 10 months of pregnancy? You can't bear to beat up and scold a piece of flesh that fell from your body. You all have sons. You are standing and talking without hurting your back. I won't talk to you anymore. Lu Zayadai rushed over and pulled Jin Zayadai away. Feng Qingxiu hurriedly avoided her to prevent her from touching him. Just dodged like this, and Lu Zayadai had already pulled Jin Zayadai away. She took off Jin Zayadai on the ground. Jin Zayadai cried and immediately slapped her several times, which made the other girls tremble. Zhao Di's mother is so fierce. Zhao Di was beaten again. Alas, she had shoe sole marks on her face when she went out to play yesterday. Every day I hear Zayadai's mother scolding her, saying she's a paid-for girl and a movie maker. My mother says that I am her little cotton-padded jacket every day. If I were to have a mother like Zhao Diniang, I would be miserable. I would be an unlucky child who can't even eat. Zhao Di is so pitiful. When such an incident happened, the girls no longer dared to continue playing and ran home one after another. Especially the girl who had said before that her brother had sweets to eat but she didn't have any, looked scared. Zibao chased for a few steps but failed to catch up, so he came back to find his mother unhappy. Mom, let's go play with your sister. It's bad if you don't play with her after eating sweets. Feng Qingxiu's mood was also affected, and she looked at Huang Xiaozi, sister-in-law, I'll take Zibao back first. Go back, I'll go home too. Little stone is so big, let him play with it as he pleases. Huang Xiaozi sighed, I'll call you Basie later. Oh, no, it's Little Stone's father, Wu Lei. His name is Wu Lei. Let's talk to Director Jin. Let's not talk about Lu Zayadai's blatant preference for boys. What's it like to beat children all the time? It will definitely have a bad impact on the army. Feng Qingxiu hummed, feeling very uncomfortable. Most of the world's patriarchal preference is caused by women making things difficult for women. As a woman, why do I look down on women? It's time to talk to Director Jin. As the head of the family, Director Jin would not have beaten his daughter like this if he had not favored sons over daughters. At least she would not have been obsessed with having a son. Many times, the preference for sons over daughters is caused by the influence of parents and family partners. As long as Director Jin tells Lu Zayadai that he doesn't care about the gender of the child, to him, boys and girls are the same, I don't believe that Lu Zayadai is still so unreasonable. Even if he still favors boys over girls, he won't be like this. Serious. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 623. Jin Hong saves face. After the leader of the army talked to him, it finally brought some results. At least when Jin Zayadai came out to play, there were no slap marks or shoe sole marks on her face, and she also had a little smile. The child is very innocent, and a slight softening of attitude from her parents can make her extremely happy. After Mom and Dad had a fight, Mom stopped hitting me, she said to Feng Qingxiu. Feng Qingxiu's answer was to touch her head. Zibao was rolling on the grass with Ding Lanlan and others, laughing so hard that he was out of breath. Suddenly, Xiao Shita ran over with a group of boys, Zibao, you have no conscience. Zibao sat on the grass, looked up at him, and blinked his big eyes. Huh, he looked confused. Xiao Shita put his hands on his hips with sweat on his face and accused angrily, I'm taking you to play, why don't you give me candy and give them candy? Or high-grade milk candy? Zibao, you can't be so unfair, the last sentence was quite serious, a bit like Huang Xiaozi talking about Lu Zayadai. Zibao's reaction was to flip through the pockets on his bib and show it to them, no. Feng Qingxiu almost died laughing, this little fat guy. Xiao Shita took a look and said, you must be hiding. No, no, the little fat man shook his head like a rattle, his expression and eyes were particularly sincere, no, no more. No more, the little fat man also waved his hands. Really, Xiao Shita didn't believe it. Yeah, the little head nodded quickly and neatly. Little Shita had no choice but to run away with a group of children. If there was no candy, he would not play with Zibao. Zibao made a face at their backs, stretched out and retracted his tongue, slid across his upper lip, and made a naughty sound. Feng Qingxiu didn't know what words to use to describe it, it was the sound of sticking out his tongue. Ding Lanlan said unhappily to a group of girls in front of her, didn't you say you wouldn't tell anyone? Who leaked it? Several girls lowered their heads. They couldn't help it. They couldn't help but tell their parents about Zibao giving them toffee. An adult must have told others, otherwise little Shita wouldn't know. Little Shita is so mean. A boy of that age comes to ask Zibao for sweets. Don't be ashamed. Zibao nodded vigorously, that's bad. The children had a lot of fun, but they brought a lot of trouble to the troops. Especially when the boys were not clean, they ran around everywhere. The herds of cattle, sheep, and horses were always scattered by them. How could the soldiers who were responsible for herding horses and sheep drive them away? They all found opportunities to rush into the pasture to have fun. If the soldiers hadn't been quick-sighted, a little boy would have been kicked by a cow's hoof. After reporting it to the superiors, the army held a meeting and decided to set up a school for army children in the army, and set up 2 houses for playing base in the family compound, so that all the children, regardless of boys or girls, could go to school as long as they were over 7 years old. As for teachers, intellectuals are selected from family members of the military. Lu Zhang suggested that Feng Qingxiu recommend herself. With her knowledge, demeanor, and knowledge, she is more than enough to be a teacher for a group of children, and it is convenient to take care of Zibao. She can take Zibao to class with her and let him sit and listen. Feng Qingxiu was puzzled, why should I be a teacher? I also want to be a doctor after my household registration is transferred. She has never given up her study of medicine, and Guo Xiuying welcomed her as a member of the military doctor. She even said that a large number of medical staff were far inferior to her in medical skills. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 624. Lu Zhang didn't speak for a long time. The light from the kerosene lamp shone on his face, flickering brightly and dimly. What's wrong? What's the reason? Feng Qingxiu moved Zibao to the side of the Kong, kicked Lu Jiang's legs, and was immediately suppressed by him, you should tell me. You're so stuffy, tell me to be anxious. Lu Jiang gritted his teeth, if you are in a military hospital, then I agree with you becoming a doctor, which means you don't have to go to the battlefield. It's different here. Sister-in-law Xiuying and sister-in-law Xinru are both field doctors. Whenever there is a war, sometimes, they need to go to the battlefield together with medical soldiers. In addition to treating the wounded, they sometimes have to carry guns and fight. Although there is no war happening now, it is not peaceful. There are sometimes armed groups in the border areas, including some local armed groups that are not fully armed. Collapse. Feng Qingxiu suddenly realized, are you afraid that I will go to the battlefield? Zbao is so young and I am still pregnant. Even if I become a doctor, the army will definitely not let me go to the battlefield in a year and a half. Not now, but later. In the future? You are thinking too far, Ajahn. You don't know where you will be transferred in the future. If you leave, I am a family member of the army, so naturally I will go with you. The army cannot keep me. The work arrangements of military dependents are obviously different from those of military personnel. Even if Feng Qingxiu becomes a doctor in the army, she cannot be classified as a medical soldier. She should be a temporary medical soldier. The specific situation depends on the arrangement of the army. It doesn't matter what she says now. Unless the country is particularly short of talents in this field and the situation is particularly urgent, anyone with some medical skills will have to go to the battlefield. I'm still worried, Lu Zhang said. Feng Qingxiu put her hand on his arm. What are you worried about? We don't need to hide anything between husband and wife. I remember there are international regulations that when two countries are fighting, they are not allowed to harm medical soldiers. Medical soldiers are considered the safest arms, because they are responsible for rescuing the wounded on the battlefield, including treating the enemy's wounded. That's what the regulations are, but there are many people who don't abide by the regulations. Lu Zhang sighed deeply, one after another, and finally said when Feng Qingxiu frowned, your medical skills are really good, the army will probably list you as an official military doctor. Our army is in short supply of doctors. The same goes for medical soldiers. In the recent self-defense counterattack, many medical soldiers who left the battlefield had mental problems, and some of them had mental problems. I was frightened crazy by the blood on the battlefield. Feng Qingxiu was stunned immediately. I think sister-in-law Xiuying and sister-in-law Xinru are both very good, she said. Lu Zhang said in a deep voice, those with excellent psychological quality, like sister-in-law Xiuying and sister-in-law Xinru, are calm and composed on the battlefield, recover well after the battlefield, and have almost no impact on their lives, but most people cannot do this. In our army, the contribution of medical soldiers to the country is no less than that of any frontline soldier who fights bloody battles. The battlefield also brings them indelible pain. Wife, I hope you and your children are safe and happy in the rear. Live instead of following my adventures. Compared to being a medical soldier, being a teacher for a bunch of kids is simply too easy. Lu Zhang has great confidence in Feng Qingxiu. With her serious study spirit, even if she becomes a doctor, she will definitely study hard. How could the army let such a talent go? If I hadn't been careless and stupid yesterday, I would have finished today's update in one go. Oh, it's the end of the month, please vote for me. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 625. Feng Qingxiu respected Lu Jiang's opinion and was somewhat shaken. In the midst of her dilemma, the candidate for the teacher was decided. She was the revolutionary friend of Su Kaikshuan, the deputy political commissar of the military division. Her name was Zhang Hongmei. She had a junior high school education and had given birth to 4 children and lived to be 3. She was both knowledgeable and capable. He had experience in raising children, and with the support of Su Kaikshuan, he recommended himself to the army and successfully achieved his goal. Feng Qingxiu felt embarrassed when it came to her academic qualifications. The original owner's parents favored boys over girls, and she had no chance to go to school. After becoming the original owner, she brought her saved knowledge and talents, and then continued to study, but she could not continue to go to school to obtain a degree. Academic qualifications are a sore point for her, but people in the world use academic qualifications to distinguish intellectuals from non-intellectuals. Of course, if Su Kaikshuan's status had not been there, Zhang Hongmei's job would not have been confirmed so quickly. Among the family members accompanying the army, at least 2 have high school diplomas, and several have junior high school diplomas. Most of them have urban household registration, and one has rural household registration. Their family conditions are quite good, but their husband's status is not as good as Su Kaichuan's. However, in addition to Zhang Hongmei, the army also arranged two family members with high school education as teachers. One named Chen Ju teaches arithmetic, and the other named Yang Hongfei serves as a substitute teacher. That's probably what Zhang Hongmei and Chen Ju meant when they couldn't go to school, so Yang Hongfei came to take over their classes. Looking at Lu Zhang, who was dumbfounded after receiving the news, Feng Qingxiu secretly smiled and comforted. The army arrangements naturally have the army's intentions. Let's not reveal anything. Besides, I am pregnant now, and I may not be able to control it. If there are too many children, who will be responsible for bumping into me? I am not only worried that they will bump into me lightly, but I am also worried that something will happen to them at school and I will not be able to explain to their families. It's okay if the parents are harsh, but it won't be easy if they are harsh. Lu Zhang reacted immediately, yes, we can't be teachers. Your health is the most important. When brother Cao transfers your and Zbao's household registration relationship, it doesn't matter whether you have a job or not. I will support you and your children. His salary and allowances are enough to support his family. If his family members who have no job are with the army, their allowances include certain ration standards. Even for work, the standard monthly ration is only a few kilograms more. At this time, Lu Zhang thought of the supplies in Feng Qingxiu's space. They had no worries about food and clothing. Feng Qingxiu quickly saw through his thoughts and couldn't help but laugh. Although she had no idea of relying on a man to live as a housewife, she felt very happy when she faced Lu Jiang's thoughtfulness. Recently I asked about the work issues of family members accompanying the army. Although the policy stipulates that the government where the army is located needs to include us in the resettlement scope, the work in government agencies and other units is very tight, and there is too much food for the people, so it is difficult for most of the family members to be included in the resettlement scope. Arrange a suitable job. Let's not think about work issues. If the army arranges it, of course it will be fine. We will still live together and will not be separated. I don't want to work in a place other than the military camp. The capital city is too far from here. I do not want to leave you. I don't want you to take Zbao with the army and not live with me. Lu Zhang felt unhappy when he thought about life without his wife and children. Qingxiu, you don't want to work anymore. I will support you and your children for the rest of your life. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 626. That being said, it ultimately depends on the arrangement of the troops. Feng Qingxiu felt that it would be a pity to waste what she had learned. What does the country lack most? In addition to materials and money, it is talent. Guo Xiuying also said to Feng Qingxiu, Qingxiu, I have agreed with you that when Cao Hui transfers your household registration relationship, you will help me. When time goes by and your contribution is great, you can transfer it to it's better to be a formal soldier. Formal soldier? Me, Feng Qingxiu pointed to her nose, she couldn't even think about it. Soldiers have the highest salary, and the standards for enlistment are very strict. During recruitment, those who do not weigh enough will be immediately dismissed, and there is almost a lot of competition for the spots. That year, Wang Zhenqiu and Lu Zhang talked about the recruitment. But in the end, not a single quota was obtained, and all were intercepted by the relevant households above, which made Wang Zhenqiu very angry. In Feng Qingxiu's impression, the army is not that easy to advance. Guo Xiuying smiled and said, What? No confidence. Many of the technical staff were recruited by the army under unusual circumstances. She was also recruited into the army with exceptional medical skills and excellent psychological quality. She has been following Zhao Yang and participated in many battles. Now she is a doctor in Zhao Yang's division with the rank of major. Previous letters from Dr. Guo and Wu Zheng both praised Feng Qingxiu's talent. If she cultivates it well, her future achievements cannot be underestimated. During their recent relationship, Guo Xiuying took Feng Qingxiu's exam several times and found that her foundation was special. He is solid, much better than the medical soldiers recruited in the army who have no basic knowledge, and he has great insights into obstetrics and gynecology. Feng Qingxiu said sheepishly, "It's not a matter of confidence or lack of confidence. I haven't thought about such a thing at all. Isn't now an opportunity? Take your time, start as a health worker, and serve the soldiers and their families. I have mentioned it to the leaders a long time ago, and they have no objection. Your work does not need to be arranged by the government. The army arrangements for you." Speaking of this, Guo Xiuying said to her seriously, "After several wars, there is a serious shortage of doctors in our army. We have no choice but to continue to train new recruits to be medical soldiers. But they have no foundation at all before. If we want to train them, it is not easy to be a field doctor with excellent technical and psychological qualities. Every time I come off the battlefield, I feel very sad, not only for the sacrificed and injured brothers, but also for the medical soldiers who have mental problems. After a big war, I had to take care of their mental problems. Over time, I got used to it. I value your psychological quality very much, Qingxiu. Really, I don't care about your gentleness, but you have to deal with it. Wang Beizu's fierce spirit makes him suitable for being a medic. Don't worry, medics don't have to go to the battlefield like before, most of them are in the rear to save lives and heal the wounded. Although the medical skills are somewhat basic, in other aspects they are just fake. I have taken a fancy to their nature of bullying good and fearing evil. Anyway, I am not easy to bully." Feng Qingxiu did not agree to Guo Xiuying, nor did she refuse. In her opinion, just saying it is useless. Guo Xiuying said with a smile, "Everyone knows that they are tough, so others don't dare to bully them. How many people can possibly do this?" Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but smile after hearing this. A few days after the two discussed the matter in private, Cao Hui brought Song Gang back after a long journey. Sang Hong, who had gone to pick up their father and son, got out of the car and carried large and small bags like Cao Hui. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 627. Most of the packages were moved directly into Lu Jiang's house and handed over to Feng Qingxiu. Cao Hui said breathlessly, "Brothers and sisters, Zibao, his grandfather, his godfather, his grandfather Chen, grandma Chen, his aunt Chen, his uncle Shen asked me to bring it to you." He finished speaking in one breath, and Wang Xinru was confused. "Who are you talking about?" Song Gang was not in good spirits, but he did not forget to hug Zibao. The two brothers were very affectionate. After hearing Wang Xinru's question, he explained to his mother, who had already recognized him after getting off the car, "Grandpa Zibao is Grandpa Lu. Bao's godfather is Uncle Zhao Anbang, and Zibao's grandpa Cheng and grandma Cheng are the mayor. Zibao and his aunt have been at home several times since they went away. Zibao's uncle and grandpa are very respectful to him. Aunt Chen Swiniang and Uncle Shen Fiheng specially asked Dad to bring something to Zibao. The timid little guy who came to the Lu family when he was 4 years old has now grown up, is sensible, and speaks fluently. Gangzi is right. Brother Anbang and his sister-in-law know about it. As for the others, my sister-in-law has never seen them, so of course she doesn't know who they are," Feng Qingxiu said while asking Cao Hui what he had brought. Cao Hui took a few sips of water and said, "Zibao's grandfather was afraid that you and Ajiang would make Zibao lose weight due to hunger, So he asked me to bring you 2 bags of noodles, 1 bag of 50 kilograms of corn flour, and 1 bag of 50 kilograms of white flour. The rest are food, drink, and clothing. I can't tell who sent them. I didn't look carefully at the packages and luggage bags packed by Zibeo's grandfather. They are all yours anyway. You can see for yourself later. I will give you and Zibeo's household registration documents first, and you will submit them later to confirm your household registration. Feng Qingxiu and Zibeo originally had rural household registrations, but when they were transferred to the military station, they immediately became urban household registrations. The biggest difference between urban household registration and rural household registration is that people with urban household registration can eat commercial grains and enjoy non-staple food treatment. After all the procedures are completed, the couple can receive the Army's subsidy for unemployed military dependents, which is the minimum living standard. However, Feng Qingxiu's work arrangement will soon be settled for non-military urban residents, so the military subsidy is not available to them. The army arranged for her to be a health worker. The health worker under Guo Xiuying was actually another name for a medical soldier. After receiving the order, Feng Qingxiu couldn't help but laugh when she saw Lu Jiang's worried expression, and said angrily, "Don't do this in front of outsiders. If you show such a look outside, people must not say that we don't know what is good and what is good." Her work has attracted the envy of many military family members. As Guo Xiuying said, not everyone has such an opportunity. Lu Jiang looked at her belly and said, "You are pregnant now, and you have to take care of Zibeo. As a health worker, you have to monitor the soldier's health and other issues at all times, which is very energy consuming." He was just worried about his wife. "I am tired and worried that my wife will follow the army's command and go to the battlefield in the future. This is not a question of whether she is willing or not. All soldiers must obey the command." Feng Qingxiu touched his face and said, "These are not problems. In the 21st century, how many professional women only start taking vacations when they are due to give birth? Why can't she? She also really wants to have her own career, whether in the 21st century or this era." Guo Xiuying followed Zhao Yang, and she wanted to follow Lu Jiang all the time. "My head hurts when I look up military medical information. I have an old cousin and a classmate who are in the military, but I can't contact them. They can't leak information about the army casually. Anyone who has relevant information can leave a message, otherwise I can only make it up." Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 628. What is a military doctor? All doctors, medics, health workers, and other soldiers engaged in medical treatment in the army can be called military doctors. Military doctors are soldiers first and then doctors. It can also be said that soldiers who use medical skills as an aid. We and the civilians who sing and dance in the art troupe, the personnel, are different, and they are different from the civilian personnel in military agencies and units. This was not said by Guo Xiuying, but by Wang Sanbao, a senior military doctor. Feng Qingxiu is good at Chinese medicine, and she does no first aid, treatment of trauma, and bone setting, but she knows that surgery is one of her shortcomings, including first aid on the battlefield, etc., for which she has no experience. Therefore, as soon as the work was completed, she proposed to study. Guo Xiuying valued her very much and specially found Wang Sanbao, a veteran who had been a military doctor for more than 30 years, to take care of her. To bring means to teach. Wang Sanbao is a typical hero among medical soldiers. He often shuttles in the rain of bullets, has witnessed the bloodshed on the battlefield, has rescued many wounded, and has watched many comrades never return home. After participating in a large-scale battle for the first time, Wang Sanbao's spirit something went wrong, and it took a long time for her to recover, and she finally decided not to marry for the rest of her life. Never marrying is a characteristic of many medical soldiers, including international medical soldiers. After listening to Wang Sanbao's explanation about military doctors, Feng Qingxiu asked, military first, then medical, does it mean that like soldiers, we must participate in daily training when not receiving medical treatment? Organize housekeeping, military training, and study guiding ideology. Her first reaction was this, military training. She participated in military training 3 times in a row in junior high school, and college. Each training lasted for 7 to 8 days, and they were all trained to tears when they left the military camp. Many junior high schools do not have military training. In the year after graduating from elementary school and entering junior high school, for some reason, she participated in an 8-day military training on the eve of the start of the school year when she was in the first year of junior high school. Moreover, they were the only class that had military training. There was no such thing before, and there will be no such thing later. The military training took place on campus, unlike in the military camp during high school and college. I really experienced the daily life of a soldier. What Feng Qingxiu was talking about was the training content of ordinary soldiers in the army. Wang Sanbao suddenly laughed, it seems that you already know a lot about it? That's absolutely right. The difference is that soldiers are trained in military affairs. We are learning medical skills. After all, I have lived in the army for so long, how can I not understand anything at all? Feng Qingxiu said with a smile. Wang Sanbao nodded, yes, you get up in the morning and go out for exercise first. When you come back to tidy up the house, clean up, wash up, and eat, the rest of the time belongs to you. Since you are pregnant now and live in the family compound, after discussion, I agree that you don't need to participate in morning and evening training, it's very important, you can't be lazy during the day. Don't worry. I know what I should do. Feng Qingxiu's attitude is very serious and she will never let go of a rare learning opportunity. It will not hurt her to learn more about her true skills. Today is the first day of her work implementation. After the formalities are completed, it is time to collect what belongs to her. When Guo Xiuying helped Feng Qingxiu get military uniforms, first aid kits, and various equipment and came back, she saw Wang Sanbao testing Feng Qingxiu. Qingxiu's first aid skills, Zibao sat aside obediently and played with grass and insects. They were neither noisy nor fussy. They were white, fat, and lovable. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 629. Guo Xiuying put down her things and stood quietly aside, watching Feng Qingxiu demonstrate her first aid skills. Surprise appeared unabashedly in Guo Xiuying's eyes. She had passed Feng Qingxiu's exam, but she only took the exam on Chinese medicine and general treatment. She didn't listen to Feng Qingxiu's claim that she was proficient in battlefield first aid. Feng Qingxiu's current method is clearly battlefield first aid. Feng Qingxiu was indeed appointed as a health worker out of the norm. The other medical staff who were waiting to see the excitement were immediately as stunned as Guo Xiuying, because Feng Qingxiu was very skilled in first aid techniques, including how to stop bleeding, how to bandage, how to ventilate, etc., how to fix fractures, how to transport, how to conduct air raid rescue, etc., everything was done well. Among them, the transportation was not shown much and was dictated because she was pregnant now and no one came forward to help move the wounded. How can this be? She has never been on the battlefield, so how can she know battlefield first aid? Wang Sanbao suddenly grabbed Feng Qingxiu's hand showing acupressure to stop bleeding, and asked eagerly, who taught you these first aid methods? There were several techniques that she had never seen or heard of, although the specific effects were not known. How, but as a wounded person, she could clearly feel that the effect was very good. Guo Xiuying and other medical staff also looked at Feng Qingxiu, unable to hide the surprise in their eyes. Feng Qingxiu thought for a while and replied, some of them were learned during the doctor training. During the 3-month doctor training, I studied in various departments for a period of time. Some of them, no one taught me, it was me. I figured it out by myself, and based on the various injuries to the human body, I can always figure out something. She can't always say that she comes from the 21st century. The learning content is a collection of valuable experiences summed up by countless doctors through research and clinical trials in the following decades, which is equivalent to standing on the shoulders of giants. She is extremely grateful that she bought a large number of books when she was preparing, and now uses a large part of them. When she thought she might become a doctor in the army, Feng Qingxiu secretly found all the medical books in the space. She had sorted them out as early as when she was studying medicine. The difference was that she had read traditional Chinese medicine classics and treatments. There was a lot of content about minor illnesses. During this period of time, she read books on trauma first aid and focused on practicing the 6 major battlefield first aid techniques. She has always believed that you should not fight an unprepared battle. If you want to get the attention of the superiors, you must first show some real skills. At the beginning, in order to cope with the coming of the apocalypse, she was very well prepared, and she actually learned first aid methods from professional doctors, just like some moves were learned from professional martial arts elites. Come and teach me, Wang Sanbao turned over and asked a medical soldier to lie on the hospital bed. Comrade Qingxiu, come here and teach me the first aid methods you just showed. There are several techniques that I have never seen before. You teach me, I will study it carefully and combine it with the experimental results. The army often trains and there are not many injured on any day. If the experimental results show that it is better than the first aid method we have now, then all medical staff must learn and spread it across the country. Our first aid methods are effective and can save the lives of many soldiers. At least, they can delay their death and have time to send them to the rear for treatment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 630. When Feng Qingxiu heard this, she was stunned for a moment, her surprise rising to the surface. Didn't she come to learn from Wang Sanbao? How did he become Wang Sanbao and learn from himself? The identities of teacher and student were suddenly reversed. What? Don't you want to teach me? When Wang Sanbao asked, a trace of disappointment flashed in his heart. No, 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 Feng Qingxiu waved her hands hurriedly, I'm just a little surprised. You are a senior and you suddenly want to learn from me. Wang Sanbao felt relieved and said with a smile, the masters come first, and it has nothing to do with the seniors and juniors. I have belonged to the military camp all my life. As long as it is beneficial to the soldiers, I am willing to learn anything. I have experienced countless battles, large and small, I personally sent away countless heroic souls, and I don't want to let them go as long as it can give future soldiers a little hope of survival. Guo Xiuying said from the side, the conditions in our military region are relatively difficult, and many people cannot adapt to the climate here. Although most medical soldiers obey the orders of the country, you, Sister Sanbao, was the first to request to be transferred. Feng Qingxiu stood in awe. The concepts of following orders and coming voluntarily are completely different. Some of the former are willing and some are unwilling, but they cannot be deserters and have to come, while the latter come on their own initiative. Why don't you take the lead? I don't want to waste my skills. Wang Sanbao smiled slightly, without any intention of taking credit. I will never get married and have no children in my life. The little girls and boys I have grown up in these years are my children. Of course I have to come and take good care of them. Let's get started now, Qingxiu, let's stop talking nonsense. Wang Sanbao was eager to learn. While talking, he took his own notes to record. Faced with Wang Sanbao's eagerness to learn and the eagerness of the surrounding medical soldiers, Feng Qingxiu showed no secrets at all. She started from scratch to demonstrate the first aid techniques she had learned, some of which they had already mastered, and some of which they did not know how to do, just as Wang Sanbao said. Several types, Feng Qingxiu showed them while explaining the reasons for doing so. Although she has no experience on the battlefield, she is very knowledgeable on paper. After all, it is all book knowledge. For research on the human body, how can this era compare to the 21st century? Every first aid method has related explanations. Feng Qingxiu knows these contents by heart, even if there are some things she doesn't understand, she remembers them in her mind like a gulp. The reason why I recite it like this is because I am afraid of being tested. If I can't explain the reason, I will be in big trouble. Those who imparted knowledge were meticulous, and those who studied were very serious. Guo Xiuying noticed and listened. Just as she was thinking about asking Feng Qingxiu to record what she had learned into a book for everyone to study, she was suddenly tugged at the hem of her clothes. As soon as she lowered her head, Guo Xiuying saw Zibao's fat face. I don't know when, he slipped off the chair and ran to me. Zibao looked at her pitifully, and touched his belly with his little chubby hand, and, the baby is hungry. Eat, eat, eat. Baby, baby, eat. Is the baby hungry? Guo Xiuying looked at her watch and found that 15 minutes had passed since mealtime. Turning around to see the teaching and learning people so attentive, Guo Xiuying thought for a moment and took Zibao away without disturbing them. Come on, Zibao, I'll take you to dinner. Occasionally, one or two distracted medical soldiers saw the scene and had no time to say anything.